Now, King reaches out to Chavez again a couple years later. This time it's 1968, March of 1968, at which point King has about a month left to live. And the context of this one is that King at this time has moved forward on this idea of building a multiracial alliance against poverty, and he is building a poor people's campaign in which he has already invited Chavez to participate in. King has actually sent some of his top aides out to Delano, California to meet with Chavez, and those top aides have said that the farm workers were very interested in joining the poor people's campaign, but Chavez hadn't made any public statements about it or hadn't really reached out to King anymore about it. And so King is kind of following up with this second letter. The more specific context of that second letter was that Chavez had begun to engage in a long fast. In 1968, the farm workers were facing kind of a increasingly violent situation. They were facing some attacks, and many of the farm workers were starting to, they were starting to want to fight fire with fire. And so to keep his own organization disciplined in terms of nonviolent discipline, Chavez engaged in this fast. And King writes to Chavez for the second time on the 20th day of Cesar Chavez's fast. And in this letter, King prays for Chavez's health, and he hails Chavez as a powerful leader, and tells Chavez that he's very moved by his fast. So Chavez doesn't respond to the second letter by Martin Luther King either, and there might be a different reason for why that is this time. One simple reason might be that Chavez ended up fasting for 25 days, and for a number of months he was greatly weakened from that fast, and there were many things that he couldn't engage in. He experienced a lot of physical ailments after the fast. So there's a chance that Chavez didn't reach out to King simply, because of that. However, Cesar Chavez's top aides later said that basically later said that Chavez was concerned that King, by 1968, Martin Luther King had become an extremely vocal critic of the Vietnam War, and Chavez also disagreed with the war. However, Chavez didn't feel like he could openly associate with a very strong critic of the Vietnam War, because many of the unions that supported the farm workers movement included a lot of unions that built machinery, automobiles, and the war provided a lot of work, for the workers that were members of those unions that supported Cesar Chavez. So Chavez didn't want to alienate those unions, which were an important funding source. So he might not have wanted to have an open alliance with King in order to keep those relationships alive. At the same time, many of the farm workers themselves supported the war for the same reason that many marginalized people do, and many immigrant groups in particular do, which is that wars are ways of proving your patriotism. And many of the farm workers were concerned that a lot of the United States didn't really see them as American, and being seen as American was an important way of gaining your rights and rising up in society. And Furthermore, many of the farm workers had relatives that were fighting in Vietnam and were hoping to gain their citizenship through fighting in Vietnam. So Chavez might have been concerned, or according to his top aides, he was concerned that an open alliance with King would have alienated the unions that were an important funding source of the movement, and would have alienated many of his own workers. And for this reason, he might not have built a more open alliance with King at this time.